Are you ready?
Good news, everyone!
I'm the surprise in your cereal box. I'm
great! Everybody else sucks!
I said, are you ready?
Yes, sir, random kid I just met.
It's Ciely.
Hooray! People are paying attention to me. That's right. You're always blaming me. So, my reputation exceeds me.
It's time to check the link.
Oh, wait, you serious? Let me laugh even harder.
You know what? You just made the list.
It's all in football.
Sure, we talk about it all the time.
Really?
No, burn.
What is up, you ducks? It is all in football. Oh, I thought Barkley was going to keep going with the drinking the water. I was going to say, if you're thirsty for fantasy football, but I can't make that transition anymore. She was going at it right before we came on air. As you can see, no parking violations this week to get towed away. So I'm in a better mood. It's Chris Meaney. I pointed the right way. And Lauren down there. 3-team. Oh, I went the wrong way for the fist bump, so it's already over. Make sure everything over at FTN, code all in, get you 20% off. And at The Athletic right now, it's back. If you want to go get the customizable projection cheat sheet generator thingy, was $1 a month for an entire year. So $12, basically a Chick-fil-A meal, because by the way, they are expensive now all of a sudden. It's like standing there waiting. Like, I love some Chick-fil-A. I was standing there. I was like, wow, a single meal doesn't start under $9.99 anymore. I'm like, what? Like, you kind of
when did this happen?
I know. That's what I'm saying. It's always like, it's like these little incremental, and all of a sudden you go in there and like, holy crap, everything's $10 plus for a meal now.
I know. Like you go get 2 meals and it's definitely over $30. Like that never, I don't know.
I had to take a loan out to go to Five Guys the last week. So,
and they probably still didn't fill up the bag of fries.
That's why you gotta love, like, you gotta love your local places, man. I've got one, could be considered a dive bar, but they've got great food and it's still the same price as it was like 20 years ago, which is phenomenal.
See, we don't have a lot of that in Virginia Beach. We have either chains or like.
Well, I live in Florida, so we have lots of weird stuff here.
Well, of course. I mean, you have Gator sandwiches and stuff like that.
We do. Gator bites, baby. Yum.
Are they legitimately Gator bites?
Yep. They're good. Little chewy, but you know, it's like calamari with seafood. Like, you understand that it has a texture to it. But yeah, Gator bites are huge. Frog legs are huge. Conch fritters. Yeah.
Are you a calamari person?
Myself? Yes.
You both of you are?
Well, yeah.
Can you do the bodies? Because I can't. I can only do the rings. I can't eat the bodies.
You just gotta get over it. It all tastes delicious. Dunked in some marinara. Can't beat it.
No. Meaning you can't do the bodies either?
Nah.
Oh, come on, boys.
No.
I could, but I'm that good.
I'll just eat your leftovers when you have like 4 little tiny rings, and I'll eat all the legs. Don't worry about it.
Don't get giant rings calamari, by the way. They're worse the bigger they are. Kind of like lobster tail. Have you ever had? We went one time and got market lobster tail, and it was like a 2-pound lobster tail. It's like, oh my god, this is gonna be amazing. And it's gross. It's like like chewier and tougher. It's like it gets worse the bigger it gets.
True, very true.
Not a lot of some things people would say, but anyway, as we continue.
Family show here.
I know. Should I just give away the announcement now? Should I just announce that? Why not for the transition? If you want, look. If you enjoy this, the whole 57 people still watching the off season. But if you're listening on whatever Spotify, iTunes, whatever it might be, like, good announcement. If you enjoy this nonsense, and if you want 2 hours of it in one dosage, 9 a.m. Saturday, starting July 8th. This is a week and a half away. This is going to be us on Sirius XM. The FTN Fantasy Show is starting in a week and a half every Saturday morning to heading up into the season, and then Sundays too. Different little bit crew mix, but all the way through. We're on Sirius XM now. The show All in Football is now the FTN Fantasy Show on Sirius XM.
Let's go.
There you go.
Let's
love it.
This is gonna be so fun. I'm excited. I don't think Sirius XM is ready for us, but we won't tell them that.
They have no idea what's coming.
They have no clue what's coming.
Talking about things being bigger and duck poo and all that stuff. Like
yeah.
That.
Oh yeah.
We are insightful and we have earth-shattering knowledge that we share with our listeners.
Is this earth-shattering news?
Sure.
Calamari, baby.
Calamari.
Gator bites and calamari. Let's go.
Let's make a list.
So, hey, No, how about this for a shit? Like,
Lobster at the
I'm
top.
going to take that. No. This is the greatness of this show. I am going to segue. The bigger it gets, the worse it is. The bigger the cost, the worse it gets potentially on Kadarius Toney. How's that for a segue? How's that for tying that into fantasy football? See,
you do this for a living, Jake. Wait a minute.
I know. I'm going to try one day. I'm going to work at it. See if we can make it happen.
Hashtag goals.
You guys, so it's interesting. Kadarius Toney is on the sheet. This is what we're talking about today because we're going to continue. In case anybody has missed the past couple of shows, we're kind of looking at early ADP. A lot that's on Underdog right now for best ball drafts, but kind of there's a good tell of where ADPs should shift because it's similar to NFFC and that type of stuff. Is you might see some names you're like, oh man, I would have never thought him in the 5th round, but by the time we get to the 3rd week of August, it's like the enormous I would say late drafting crowd comes around, and that's when they start to pivot towards what's been happening. But anyway, you guys both were like on Kadarius Toney. Am I incorrect on that? Like it sounded like you were both scoffing at Kadarius Toney. So to give you an idea, right now we have no Juju Smith-Schuster, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Kadarius Toney, 2nd year Sky Moore, another rookie, Rashee Rice. And Kadarius Toney on Underdog is wide receiver 38, sandwiched between Jordan Addison and George Pickens. Is the scoff still happening? Lauren's, meaning normally you get the first. Lauren's shaking her head a lot, so I'm going to Lauren first on this one.
Yeah. Tee us up, Lauren.
I know. I'm in such a place with this right now in my own mental capacity. Because I want to have the Kadarius Toney scoff. He was so hyped up last year. Then there was the drama. And then goes to the Chiefs. And then suddenly it's like, oh, he's a thing. And now, like he's on the Chiefs. All right. And with Patrick Mahomes, what's not to love? His ADP is not exorbitantly high. I shouldn't scoff. And yet I am, because this is Patrick Mahomes and he is going to spread the ball around to anyone else not named Travis Kelce. So I just think that there is so much, like everyone wants it to be Kadarius Toney, very much like it was last year. And I just feel like that's carrying over into this year, not necessarily right at this moment. I'm just worried that hype train is going to sail out of the station when it comes to, redraft time, not best ball and, what we're doing right now. I just can't. I don't know why, but I begrudgingly have to admit that, yes, there could be volume there. I think where his ADP right now is actually pretty decent. But I just know that this is coming and I don't want to hear it and I don't want to deal with it. I'm very saucy this morning. Sorry.
I see that. I like the talent. I really do. I know when you hear a team, like when you see a team like the Chiefs and what they're able to do and linked to Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and all the success that they've had, in trading, what was it, a 3rd round pick, Jake, I think the Giants got for Kadarius. Like when they make that trade, I get all the excitement. Like last year when that trade happened, we were all like, sell high immediately. And, if it's not dynasty, definitely in redraft because there's so much hype and he hardly touched the field. But in the Super Bowl, he had a touchdown and it's like that excitement's there. And it's like, oh, they have all these plans for him, but he really has an issue staying on the field. That's it. It's straight up. I mean, it's not rocket science talking about it. It's 3 seasons here, 2 seasons, I guess, in the NFL. And, he's got 100 catches. I get that they probably have really nice plans for Kadarius Toney and they're starving for a wide receiver 1 to step up after Travis Kelce. Yes. But you just mentioned a bunch of other dudes. And what we saw last year was just a bunch of other dudes after Travis Kelce. And Mahomes had his best season ever. Like he didn't miss Tyreek Hill at all. He was force feeding it to anybody. Heck, I think Richie James is a decent dart throw towards the end of your drafts as a guy that may just have decent games.
I was waiting
with
for
Patrick Mahomes as well.
Yep.
Yeah, I think he deserves to get, I think he's going to have a better season than MVS. I think he could have a better season. I don't know if I'll have a better season than Kadarius. I would lean with Kadarius, but I think it's a little rich. You mentioned what? Addison and around there, Pickens, Hollywood. I think I would rather have those guys than Kadarius Toney. I'm still in the camp of selling high from a dynasty standpoint as well. I don't know, Jake. I'm a little uneasy about him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, let me throw some numbers out here. By the way, my secret deep pitted hope is that we're all wrong. It's Justin Ross. Like, I just want to see Justin Ross stay healthy. I want to see Justin Ross back on the field. I want to see the Justin Ross we knew at Clemson. I want to see the old Justin. Hell, if he finishes with 500 yards, I'm just going to be happy to get this guy back on the field. But on the Kadarius Toney front, like this is where I'm actually going to kind of push back on you guys, because initially I think there's two ways to look at this. Initially, you say like 36, Addison. We clearly know he's the number 2 with Kirk Cousins. George Pickens clearly might be the number 1, but he's playing with Kenny Pickett. And you kind of go through these names, and it's like, yeah, is it Rich? So I'm going to kind of turn it this way and ask the question: is it Rich in this aspect? Could you see? Now, you were right about one thing, meaning that you kind of alluded to it, but like they designed a lot of plays for him in the playoffs in the Super Bowl. So like people are pointing out, they're like, oh, 40% target share when he was on the field. Like, well, I mean, he was on the field for 10 plays. Like, They designed plays to get him the ball. Now, obviously that could be different in his entire full season. Take health out of the equation. And I know we never want to do that completely with somebody of his high risk. We're not going to completely throw it out the door, but just for argument's sake, let's even say with the injury risk, would you guys both say 17 to 18% of the target share for the year if he plays 15 games? Do you think that's a fair number for Kadarius Toney, or is that still too high for you guys?
I think it's fair.
I think it's fair. I do agree with that. Yeah.
Okay. So just to give you my projections, again, this is why you can go download the projection cheat sheet and say you're dumb, because I have
a really cool tool to use, everybody. I'm not lying. It's cool.
Well, plus because you can find ways to say I'm dumb in very many other ways.
I mean, there's that, but
for 660 pass attempts for Patrick Mahomes, if you give him, now I have 17.7%. I have Travis Kelce leading the team at 20.3. Sky Moore gets 12-ish, MVS 10-ish, Richie James 10-ish, Rashee Rice around 7, to kind of give you an idea of like where these numbers are. So just 17.7%. I saw my ranks and projections and went, oh my God, are we too low? Because just giving him 17%, this is the numbers he comes out with. 117 targets, 78 receptions, 948 yards, not even 1,000, and 7 receiving touchdowns. Here's a little bit of a kicker for Toney: 70 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown. You add in that little bit of rushing, so now you're over 1,000 yards. Now you have 8 touchdowns. And Kadarius Toney checks in as wide receiver 18. Like, it feels like this price might actually be fair because the upside is so easy to get to if he plays 15, 16 games.
I'm looking up something.
Lauren's like, it is a big if. I get it. To walk through it, I thought Lauren would jump on and be like, no dice, I'm out. No
yeah, I'm looking something up real quick. That's why I'm doing this. Go ahead, Chris Meaney. Hang on just a minute.
Yeah,
you go.
No worries. I like that you added in the rushing, because he did have a couple moments last year where he was used inside the red zone, very like Debo, kind of like, with some end arounds and, just get the ball in his hands. I think that's really what Andy Reid is thinking here. Like you said, Jake, he's on the field for a handful of snaps, but every time he's on the field, it's like he's in motion, or it's a quick bubble slant, end around. They used the same play in the Super Bowl twice, one to Toney on the right side of the field inside the red zone, and then one to Sky Moore on the left side. It was the exact same play that they drew up. I think he's got a ceiling that could put him in that range of, a low end wide receiver 2. And I think he's certainly going to have some moments, but again, I just feel like I have to say this. Yeah, I just have to say that I have major concerns about him being durable. That's it. It's him being durable, taking care of his body. There seems to be hamstrings now a couple years in a row for him. I think Sky Moore is very interesting to me as a guy who's also they're going to try to find ways to get him involved. I think they're just going to utilize all these guys. Like, you're on the field for maybe 65% of the snaps, Toney. Sky Moore, you're flirting with 50%. We got MVS to stretch the field. You mentioned Rice. Like, Rice is a guy that I'm certainly intrigued with. I do like hearing reports that Patrick Mahomes worked out with him, wanted him, has a say in the draft process. Like, I do like hearing that for a guy like Mahomes who has that pedigree already. So, when you walk through the target share, I know if we're playing Madden, we're turning injury settings off. Like, sure, this guy's going to play 65% of the snaps. He's going to be wide receiver 1 in the squad. But
hold on. Let's play with this. Well, because 1 second, I'll give you a few more seconds here, Lauren, but let's just play with it. Let's just play with it. I'll bump him down to 11%. How about that? Drop him all the way down to 11%. We'll throw it back on. We'll throw that on Sky Moore. We'll throw it on Richie James that Meaney loves. And let's say Rashee Rice gets up to 10. All right. So move them all around and just dropping them. Like I said, if you just drop them down to 11% and adjust the other players up, that drops him all the way down to Sky Moore checks in, by the way, at wide receiver 39 now. And Richie James at 51 and Kadarius Toney all the way down at 59. So that gives you an idea. Like, to Meaney's point, before you jump in, Lauren, it's basically like you could get the top 20. Like I said, those are very easy numbers.
Yeah.
Those are attainable numbers, even if he plays probably 12 games. Legitimately, like, I don't think I would project him for that in 12. I'm just saying, if he got that in 12, it wouldn't shock anyone because of the ability that he has if he's the number one. But the floor is, we're talking about 59. You're talking about somebody you probably dropped. You probably dropped them in week 4 or 5 for somebody off waivers. So, Lauren, what Meaney said, those numbers kind of toss it all around. By the way, the highest wide receiver ends up being Sky Moore. What are your thoughts after what? And tell us what were you looking up anyway? Because we're curious.
Yeah, I'm looking up target share for the Kansas City Chiefs. Their target share and completion rate when it comes to wide receivers, running backs, and tight ends from the 2022 season. And actually, I just wanted to touch on what you had mentioned, Jake, about are we too low? Like you may be changing my mind live on air, like
you
right
got her.
now. Yeah, it may be, and I don't like it. And that's one of the reasons why I didn't even want to talk about this, because I had a feeling that this was going to be a situation. But yeah, so the Kansas City Chiefs last year, they had 49% of Patrick Mahomes' targets went to wide receivers. That's a lot higher than I had anticipated, while only 33% of the target share went to the tight end position, aka Travis Kelce. So that leaves 18% to the running back. So that does leave a lot more volume on the table than I had originally anticipated. Now, when I go in and look at the numbers. So there is an interesting situation here for Kadarius Toney to step up. However, I am going to kind of, I don't want to say backtrack, but bring up what I had mentioned before, also echo what Chris Meaney said. It's that durability and staying on the field. But I think he might be in a better mental situation with the Kansas City Chiefs than he was in with the Giants. So I wonder how much that comes to terms with it. Is he going to get better, strength and conditioning? Is he just going to get better mental health and just want to have the motivation to keep going and keep himself healthy? There's a lot of, I want to say nebulous. It's one of my favorite words to say, factors that go into this, but there is a lot more target share to the wide receiver position than I originally gave the Chiefs credit for. So I think there is an argument to be made that Kadarius Toney could actually be, well, and I said this already, I think he's actually good where his ADP is right now, and I don't really want to see it go any higher. But there is a world where this could actually pan out in his favor. I'm just skeptical about it, but I do see a pathway for that to happen for him.
It's high risk, high reward, right? Jake, you say this all the time.
And I think it's high risk, medium reward. I just don't think he can be consistent. Yeah, can he be a wide receiver one on this team? Sure. But how many times is that going to be, oh, sorry, it was the Sky Moore game. Sorry, it was the Justin Watson game. Sorry, it was the Richie James game.
Justin Watson might be on the team anymore, so.
That's also true.
And that's the thing with Mahomes, Lauren, right? That's the thing with Mahomes.
Exactly.
Like when Tyreek Hill left, like we all know that Travis Kelce's the go-to guy, but when Tyreek Hill left, it just opened up, it was a tougher defense to really defend because
and Patrick Mahomes said it himself. The beginning of last season. Yep. He was don't draft any of the wide receivers for the Kansas City Chiefs in fantasy because we're passing it to everybody. Like, fair enough. Okay.
Last little bit on this. I'll give you, so last year, what Lauren was talking about, last year, the team target percentage, this is over on True Media. I just pulled this up. So last year, Kelce had 24.8 by himself. Juju Smith-Schuster was the next closest, the leading wide receiver, 16.4. So I'm already higher than last year. If you look at it that way on Kadarius Toney, what he could do. But anyway, Juju Smith-Schuster also banged up sometime and ineffective for a lot of the year. But anyway, 16.4, 13.2 MVS. And then you start with McKinnon at 11.6. And then the next wide receiver after those four is Justin Watson, tied with Mecole Hardman at 5.5. But to go back 2 years, what we're talking about, Tyreek Hill, the last year that he was with the Chiefs, 25. Travis Kelce, 21, Mecole Hardman, 13. Now, I'm not even 17. That's the halfway point between the 13 and the 25. And that's what I'm hoping for. I think that's the top 20 we're talking about. But the 30, what did I say, 38? I think it's a reasonable cost. So got Lauren's okay with the cost. You initially scoffed before we finished.
I begrudgingly had to accept it. I scoffed because I think there's so much hype around this young man, and he has yet to really prove himself when it comes to a full season.
If we get to top 30, top 25, definitely out. Like, you're buying, this is what I say all the time. Don't buy all the risk. But at 38, Meaney, after talking this through.
38.
We're Team Toney today.
Yeah, I mean, 38 I can get behind. It's a few picks.
Tony.
Hey, Hunky Tony. Hey, Tony. Hey. No?
Wow.
Okay. I just feel like I'd rather Treylon Burks I probably rather Pickens, even though you said, Pickett. Your boy Deontay is probably in line for a bunch more targets and some touchdown, regression the other way. Hollywood Brown is a guy, I know, poor quarterback play, but yeah, I mean, when we walk through it, I mean, this is why we do this, right? We walk through this and what we can project. And Jake, I think you always say this perfectly. I mean, you always have, when doing shows with you for years, a lot of advice. Don't let your head swell up. You give a lot of good advice, but one thing you always say that sticks with me is like how the risks that you want to have with your draft. Like if you have a couple floor guys, like a couple wide receivers, like if you went alpha wide receiver, and then hammered home some running backs, and then you get back into what would be at this point, round 6 for Kadarius Toney as your third wide receiver. I think it's absolutely worth the risk at that point. Yeah, maybe even your 4th. Like these are guys that are going in the 6th, 7th round. Treylon Burks, the Pittsburgh boys, Hollywood, Addison to an extent, Gabe Davis. Like I think it's all about the construction that you have, and we can make a case for anybody. Best ball, you get Mahomes in the 2nd round, go ahead, get Tony, get Rice later, get whatever you can, and get all these KC guys. But in your own redraft league, I think it's about, you want to have a little bit of a balance there with some of these guys. But I'm still on the fence. I see the upside. One thing that you shouldn't be on the fence for is taking your league to Vegas. Let's go to Vegas, have a couple cocktails, draft Kadarius Toney if you want. You'll feel all right about it. Sun will be shining. You'll be at Stadium Swim. Watch some preseason football. You have your whole league there, and it's the ultimate fantasy football draft, and it can only take place in Las Vegas. You got to head to circa LasVegas.com for more information, but they're giving away $8,000 prize package for you and your league. 12 people, 2-night stay at Circa Resort. You're going to have the draft at Stadium Swim. They're going to pick you up at the airport in a limo. You're going to have an unbelievable hotel and stay, party at Legacy Club. You got the booth there, which is the world's largest sports book. So head on over, CircaLasVegas.com. Again, have a couple cool ones, draft Kadarius on one team, and then maybe pass on them on another. I think ultimately, you probably have to have one share. Like if you have like 3 or 4 different fantasy leagues, you probably need to have one share.
At least
You
one.
might experiment with it.
Yeah, just in case.
Speaking of cold
Richie
ones,
James leads the team.
I did want to. So FF Chalupa Batman Zack Attack actually works at Disney World and got me this awesome.
Wow, that's a sweet game.
I don't even know what to call these, by the way. I don't even. What do you call these things?
It's like a canteen, right?
Is it? That's what I was trying to figure out. Because
I think it's a canteen.
That one company made them super popular and everybody started buying the really expensive versions that are like $60, $70, $80. You know what I'm talking about? And then but I don't know. Yeah, that sounds about right. Cause I think it's like Kleenex. I don't want to call it like the brand, like everybody talks about. What are those, the tin ones that everybody gets that like the $80? My niece wanted one.
I know. I don't know what that brand name is, but I know what you're talking about.
Hydro Flask. Thank you, wife.
Hydro Flask. That's it.
There you go.
Fox chimed in with Yeti.
Well done.
She actually said Yeti first too, as well. She was with Fox at first, but then Nicole for the win. But anyway,
Nicole for the win.
DuckTales. Yeah, DuckTales for the win.
Oh, in fact, we're matching. Look, I'm
look, there you go.
DuckTales as well.
And I see it the old school, the old version one. So
it is.
Yeah. As I drink the cold one. So let's continue. Not that kind of cold one. This one's interesting. We talk, like you guys will say, well, come around, and Lauren's like, begrudgingly, Jake talked me into it. Here's one. I'm actually going to go back on something I said, but this is all the way back before draft time. And we were talking way early back then, and we're talking about potential values for next year. And I was thinking that Alec Pierce, 2nd year, disappointment from his first season, the hype, the excitement kind of fell off. I was like, ooh, he might be intriguing this year. I want to talk about the wide receivers as a whole for the Colts, because I'm actually pulling myself off Alec Pierce, and I'll give you the reason why in a second. But we know they drafted Anthony Richardson. We know already what the floor could be for the wide receivers, because the easy comparisons are Justin Fields, low in the passing game, 700-800 rushing yards, rushing touchdowns. We love Anthony Richardson in fantasy as a quarterback. If he's starting for week 1, we love him. We're concerned about Michael Pittman and the rest. I think Michael Pittman's somewhat okay. Michael Pittman, for this argument, he is at wide receiver 31. I'm probably out on him on wide receiver 31. If he was down by Toney, as crazy as that sounds, I probably have some Pittman. But for the comparisons that Meaney likes to make, Marquise Brown directly in front of him, I'll take him. Even though it could be Clayton Tune all year long. I'll still take Marquise Brown because he's basically the wide receiver. Tyler Lockett being behind both of them is absurd. Mike Evans is down here. Jordan Addison. Like, there's a lot of names I would probably take before Michael Pittman because I'm concerned about who does Anthony Richardson like. And the second part I did was when I was doing my rookie scouting on Anthony Richardson is the type of wide receiver that he hit a lot of times his best wide receiver out of the slot. Granted, some of it might be talent at Florida, but Josh Downs fits better for what Anthony Richardson does than Alec Pierce. I actually worry Alec Pierce being that kind of chain moving, red zone target, 15 chunk yard plays at a time doesn't fit Richardson right now. And I'm worried that Pierce is going to be the third wide receiver. Downs is going to be the second. And I'm overall concerned about the wide receivers' values for the Colts as it is, Meaney, because we also don't know specifically who Richardson likes the most to kind of give us that surety of at least we know he's getting 20% of the targets. And then, of course, we talk about like, what if the tight ends have a revitalization?
Jelani Woods, man, that guy's a weapon.
Jelani Woods is a beast, by the way. I'm glad you brought him up. So where are you on the Colts wide receivers with Richardson at quarterback?
I think I kind of feel like how you feel walking, listen to you walk through that kind of feels like you're out. I'm out too. I mean, I just don't know how much this price. I like Downs at his Downs is pretty. Yeah, I mean, he's cheap. He's like a pick towards the end of the draft, and
wide receiver 87.
He could be the number one midway through the season. I'm always intrigued when I see a team like when they take a quarterback and they follow it up kind of later in the draft with a wide receiver. We've seen this before, like Joe Burrow and T. Higgins and other teams like getting involved with get this guy a weapon. I just don't know how much this team's going to throw. Like, I think that, Richardson's clearly very raw compared to the other quarterbacks. Like, he's played half the games as the other guys. He's got a ceiling, like you said, from a fantasy standpoint, but they got a heck of a running back in Jonathan Taylor that they can feed the ball to 20 plus times a game. I would expect the offensive line to rebound here a little bit. And I don't even know if Richardson's going to be a week one starter. I still think that there's a possibility that Gardner Minshew is the starter for the first couple weeks of the season. He knows Steve Steichen in Philadelphia last year. Very familiar with the system that he wants to roll out in Indy. I would probably take shots on Pierce and Downs, but I'm out on Pittman. I think Pittman's a really good wide receiver. He's a possession wide receiver. He's not a great route runner like the other guys. I don't feel like he's kind of like a throw it up to him. He's a big body. He's going to bring it down. Other guys, I think they have a little bit of a higher ceiling. I think they're a little bit more explosive after the catch. I think that they can run better routes. So, and Jelani Woods, I wanted to bring him up because he is a weapon, man. He is a big body tight end who is a mismatch, and that we just saw a little bit of him last year. And I think Steichen's going to try to find a way to get him involved. So I think I'm out on Downs is free, but I think I'm out on almost everybody in this offense. Maybe that's a mistake.
I don't know.
I don't know. Lauren, I just want to say one more thing.
Yeah, go for it.
Just about Pierce. I think that he is a really good wide receiver, and I don't want to take too much away from last year because Matt Ryan was a statue behind that offensive line, and he didn't help anybody's case last year in that offense. That's it.
No, what I'm going to say is I don't think you're wrong. So when I say, oh, no, I don't think you're wrong, I'm out too, man. Like, I can't. The only one that I might take a shot on is, like you said, Downs or Pierce, just because they're so late in the draft. But I have a feeling that most of this team, aside from Pittman, because someone's going to draft him too early, then they're going to hang on to him on their squad, and then it's going to be like, what do I do with Michael Pittman every single weekend? And it's going to be one of those things. Other than that, we're looking at waiver wire fodder. So we actually have the opportunity to see what happens the first few weeks. And then Jake and I will be discussing which one that we're going to be targeting when it comes to the waiver wire moving on. But there's no way that I'm going to be targeting any of these guys in the draft unless I'm starting to fill in bench spots and one of these two dudes is still there. But I can't, not with questions at quarterback or a mobile quarterback who's back, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but the kid's a rookie. He's going to need a little bit of time to get used to the speed of the NFL being the starting quarterback, if it is indeed Anthony Richardson. And they have Jonathan Taylor. It's not like they have a lack of a run game. They have a way to move the chains. They have a way to find the end zone if they can make it to the red zone. Yes, I do think that Pierce is going to have some of the chunk yardage. He's going to be able to move the chains on, first downs or, third down conversions. But how many times is that going to happen? How soon is that going to happen? I'm out. I can't. There's just way too many things to stress out about with this offense. I don't need to deal with it.
Jake, how many, roughly off the top of your head, I don't know if you want to look it up or not, but how many pass attempts do you have for Anthony Richardson? Do you have him over 12 and a half games, 14 games?
For the full
14,
season,
right? Full season, week 1. Okay. How many pass attempts? He's got to be in the. He's probably on the late. I'd say like 500. I don't know. I don't feel like he's going to chuck it a lot.
Actually, for 518 pass attempts.
Yeah, I think that's spot on.
518, 312 completions. I'm going to give you an idea there. 3497 passing yards, so 3,500. 19 and 17 touchdowns, interceptions. I do think that's, again, this is where the issue is going to come into play because he's offset by 700 rushing yards and 7 rushing touchdowns. So you add that in, top 15 quarterback. But what that does, to give you an idea, the number 1 wide receiver is going to be Pittman. But I have Pittman for around a 22% target share, which might be high. We just broke it down and said, like, there's no guarantee that that's Pittman. There's just no guarantee Pittman's not 16. Downs is 14. Jelani Woods is 14. And Pierce falls to 4. Like, it could be any mix. But even at, that's what I wanted to say, is even at 22%, I don't remember what the exact number is, that still only checks Pittman in as wide receiver 43. That's with the clear lead of the target share on this team because of the concern of the passing game. That puts Pittman at 73, 829, and 4. Again, the biggest concern there is the receiving touchdowns. The interesting thing, I'm going to tie this into the next team, is Alec Pierce is wide receiver 66 on Underdog right now. I'm really shocked that Downs is all the way down at 87. To give you the names that he's around, Tim Patrick and Robert Woods. That's where Downs is. Like, just give me the, like, there's no.
Yeah. Like, I mean, Robert Woods is not even to score any touchdowns for you. Like, a guy's on the field all the time blocking, but
Darius Slayton, and that's what I wanted to bring up. Is the entire wide receiver room for the Giants is in between these 2 wide receivers. It is Alec Pierce at wide receiver 66, wide receiver 77, Hodgins, wide receiver 78, Hyatt, wide receiver 79, Campbell, back to back. Go 2 spots down. Wan'Dale Robinson, 82, 2 more spots down. Darius Slayton, wide receiver 84. And I want to bring these up because, hey, somebody is a value here, Meaney. Like, even if you're me and do not like Daniel Jones, somebody's a value.
And I have no idea. Can you help us? Who? Because I don't know.
It's Wan'Dale. Don't argue. ESPN.
I think the answer is the first 4 weeks is Sterling Shepard, and then we have to figure out the next 12 weeks. It always is.
But let's say, like, you know, we're pacing this out.
Yeah, you bring up a really good point because this offense is going to be better. Right, with Brian Dable did some great things with Daniel Jones last year. I don't think anybody really saw that coming. Like, especially early in the season, I just remember there's something that sticks to my head that he's just like freaking out on Jones on the sidelines. I'm like, this is all over. It's all over. It could be over immediately. He's not going to finish the season. And he turned it all around where he had his best like completion percentage. He didn't turn the ball over. And who was he throwing the football to last year? Richie James.
Yeah, the other thing he didn't do, right? He didn't throw touchdowns.
He didn't throw touchdowns. He didn't have anybody throw touchdowns.
The crazy thing is he's one of the highest completion percentage, not only overall, but on 3rd downs and converting in the red zone. And he wasn't throwing touchdowns. Like, he's like the immunity. Like, it's the Matt Ryan disease. It's like all of a sudden he gets to the end zone and is like, I don't know what to do. Like,
and there's not a lot of guys that you just mentioned score touchdowns. Like, Paris Campbell doesn't have a long history of scoring touchdowns. He has an issue staying on the field. He had a nice season last year. Slayton, same thing. Shepard, same thing. Wan'Dale, seen a minute of him. Looked great in the few games that he played. I don't know
Brazuz, whatever your name is. Barkley, LOL. Actually, Barkley's funny.
Brazuz 91. Yeah, he's
So
welcoming.
The answer, I mean, I think we know the answer is Darren Waller and then somebody. Well, if he stays healthy, if he's healthy. Like, I don't think he's toast at this point. He's 30. Like, he's not 40.
Hey now.
Oh, yeah, like, this is, again, assuming health. Like, you know, we could project out like health and play that game.
He's on the field. He's the number 1 target.
Sure. And there is definitively more risk to a Waller and to a, you know, even a Paris Campbell at this point, a Kadarius Toney, because we have the history. But, you know, I always go back to people are injured until they're not. Leonard Fournette in college, first 2 years of his career, and then he's healthy. Like, it always happens. Joe Mixon finally healthy, like, for years on end. Dalvin Cook's never made it through a full season. Maybe this is the year he finally does. So all that being said, I think we're all saying Waller's the number 1, but it's trying to figure out this number 2 to give you guys an idea of, like, even this is my team. Hey, look, I'm wearing a Giants hat. This is my team. To give you an idea, I went Paris Campbell 14.7, Isaiah Hodgins, who I think is kind of potentially the highest ceiling one.
God, I forgot about him too. Jeez.
13.4. Wan'Dale's 11.5, just because he's small slot receiver. On the field is my biggest concern, is how much he's on the field. Sterling Shepard's at 8.7. Jalen Hyatt's at 6.6. Darius Slayton is actually, I think, the one that falls completely aside at 2.0. I mean, like, do those numbers sound okay to you? Like, are you Wan'Dale Robinson should be high? Like, this is a mess. We got to, like, as of today, let me phrase it for you.
This is a big experiment with the Giants, in my opinion. So
there are 5 guys here. If you had to pick one, because they're essentially all about the same cost, Lauren, as of today, is Wan'Dale Robinson your guy?
I think he is. I liked what he did on the field, and it's those intangible things that he was able to do. I think Daniel Jones found him, and I don't have any specific stats in front of me to corroborate this, but it felt like when I watched them play, Daniel Jones was finding Wan'Dale Robinson when he was on the field to get him out of sticky situations. I like that. I liked that kind of security blanket that he did represent when he was on the field. Again, there are other security blankets. Saquon Barkley is a big one. Darren Waller is going to be another one. I'm just speaking to the wide receiver core here. And I liked what I saw out of him. And if they're all going around that same time, I think I might go with Wan'Dale Robinson. That's just more of a gut call though, because as I just mentioned, this is an experiment. Like, pick your favorite horse from the Kentucky Derby based on the name. I feel like that's kind of what we're doing right here.
For what you're probably remembering is first, like, he got hurt early. The first game he was week 1, and then he was like out until week.
And then he popped off
6 or 7.
And then he did great.
The first game back, he had a touchdown. It wasn't a ton in the receiving game, but he got the touchdown. The next game after that, he had 8 targets in that second full game back. The one that you're definitely probably the most like recent in everybody's mind is the game that before he went out is against Detroit. He had something like 12, like a dozen targets, caught over 100 yards. And that was the game that, like, or maybe it was 100 on the nose. Anyway, somewhere around there. It was a huge game. And then that was
also the week that I talked up Wan'Dale Robinson like crazy on our waiver wire show. And I'm like, I love this guy. So it's like, he has my heartstrings. I can't help it.
And it was probably also the week.
And
it was probably also the week that everybody else was hurt too, right? Like Slayton or Shepard or, these guys.
Shepard is definitely gone by then. We're talking week 11, 12 against them. I'm actually going to pull it up for you while you're talking, Meaney. Let's see who's
I would rank
against my Lions.
I think Wan'Dale is probably the right call, and just like if you're looking for upside, or if, we are talking redraft here, certainly keeper and dynasty, he would be near the top of the list for me. There's something about Dayball, man. Like
Slayton had 5 for 86 in that game.
Slayton had some good moments, especially down the stretch. I remember taking his over on his receiving yard and catch prop nonstop. Richie James was fine in the end zone.
This is another one. Daniel Jones for 341 yards on 44 attempts and 1 touchdown. Like, that's again, so Richie James had the touchdown, 3 for 48. You know who the 4th leading receiver was for that game? You guys want to take a guess?
Oh God.
It wasn't Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley was only 2 for 13.
Bellinger.
It wasn't Lawrence Cager.
Oh, Bellinger got hurt.
Bellinger then?
Nope.
I think Bellinger got hurt.
Big dude not on the team anymore. Used to play for the team he faced. Kenny Golladay.
Not Kenny.
I was gonna say Golladay.
I was gonna say Golladay, but it's like doesn't make sense.
Make fun of me.
I know he had a touchdown against the Eagles in the last.
There was a reason I brought it up. It's not to just joke about it.
Jake, can I do a peek behind the curtain really quick? For anyone who doesn't know who's listening to the show, Jake and I got into it, not really into it, but we started arguing on another podcast that I was hosting and he was a guest on, and it had to do with Daniel Jones and Kenny Golladay. I specifically remember this because I was working and I texted you and I was like, Kenny Golladay and Daniel Jones, finally. And I totally remember this. That was literally like almost 3 years ago.
Golladay is not.
It was a long time.
I was holding the poop emoji
I
up because
totally
that's
forgot
all I
about
did,
that.
was poop all over the Kenny Golladay fit. So there's a reason. It's not to I wasn't going to bring up like a victory lap on that one. It was 100% for this reason. There's excitement for Jalen Hylett because he's the new young fresh toy. There's questions of Wan'Dale Robinson, Sterling Shepard. Like, we go down this list. If we talk about pure talent and stack this roster and go down Shepard, Robinson, Campbell, who I like, Hodgins, like pure raw talent ability, we would all say Hyatt. However, my concern for Hyatt is the same one I had for Golladay. Different wide receiver styles, but what Hyatt does best, I just don't fit what Daniel Jones does now. Like, maybe he can develop into that, and maybe, this Hyatt addition and Waller and opening the offense more. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe at the end of next year, we're like, oh my God, Daniel Jones, Brian Daboll did the same thing. He's now in the conversation, the top 5, and I'll happily have egg on my face because that means we actually have a franchise quarterback. I don't think that's happening, but that's why I'm not in on Jalen Hylett, especially as a rookie who, as of today, it is late June. We're not even July yet. which again, July 8th is when we start the show on Sirius XM. There you go. FTN Fantasy Show. Well done. Jalen Hyatt is not even with the second team. Like we talk about this all the time. The offseason reports are often overblown. But the one thing we do always talk about every single year is running with the ones means nothing. You have to be evaluated with the ones. That's the only way you can see what you can bring to the team. Hyatt's not even running with the ones yet. Granted, it's still very early, but I'm really, really out on Jalen Hyatt, even at wide receiver 8.
Are there any other teams in the NFL that need a wide receiver too? Because the Giants have a plethora to go
Kansas
around.
City.
Besides, Kansas City has a ton of wide receiver twos too.
Though. They don't have a one.
Whatever. Bundle them up and trade them. Like, get DeAndre Hopkins. I don't know. Do something. Oi.
I couldn't agree more on Hyatt. I think he's a really good player. I didn't love the fit. He's gonna be very boom or bust this year, but I bet you we're going to be talking about him on 3 or 4 occasions. It's just going to be tough to nail down which boom weeks are going to be there. I think the addition of him hurts Slayton. He's going to be in a rotation, and he's going to be stretching the field.
Best ball when he said that.
That's it. And you know what? The Giants stack is pretty good because if you feel good about Waller after the 5 tight ends go off the board, Jones is outside the top 10 at the quarterback position. And we know that he just had like 700 rushing yards. So he can be a good floor quarterback for you. Plus, if you nail one of these guys, I think Hodgins is probably the safest. Honestly, I think he's going to be consistent in this offense. I think Wandell is going to be like a nice little gadget player that I like Daboll drafting these guys. He's an offensive genius. So like, I know he's got plans for Daboll and Hyatt or for Robinson and Hyatt. Paris Campbell, I just don't trust him. But Hyatt is the best ball poster boy, I suppose. He's going to be like a Deshaun Jackson, I think, early in his career.
You just reminded me of going down like my dinner list of being like, can't eat that. I have high blood sugar. Can't do this. I don't like the taste of meatloaf. I just crossed them off and circled them. I just did all that. Yes, Meaney, I love you.
I bet you guys after week 2, you're both talking about Hyatt. Oh my goodness, 4 catches, huge, 135 yards and a touchdown.
Hey, after week 2 is Arizona. Week 2 is Arizona.
Oh yeah, it's all here. I've been down this path. And then week 3, nothing.
At San Francisco, 100%. Yeah. Here's what I'll say. And not to be like, let's only talk best ball, but I'm actually going to pivot real quick to a best ball conversation. I am the Giants fan. I'm completely out, even Saquon Barkley for best ball, because here's why. I hate the Giants in best ball for this reason only. You want to stack late in the season, hopefully, because that's when you don't go overboard, because of course, if things go wrong, you've completely eliminated your team from any contention. However, the Giants not only finish with Green Bay, at New Orleans, at Philadelphia, home to the Rams, which we can argue the Rams might be, whatever. It's the last 4 games, which also comes with 2 Mondays and 2 Sundays. It's Sunday, Monday, Sunday, Monday, or Monday, Sunday, Monday, Sunday. Yeah. So they screwed them with that schedule. Week 13 bye on top of that. So you're losing them for week 13 at the end of there's just a lot. The Giants schedule is actually hellish. There's been a lot of talk about it, how they got screwed with, was it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of their first 10 games are on the road.
It's the Aaron Rodgers effect. He's getting all the home games. At MetLife.
Exactly. They
it's Rodgers
really,
world. We're just living in it.
And this isn't this has nothing to do with being a Giants fan. I'm not complaining. There's other teams that got screwed, but other people, Warren Sharp, were tweeting about how much the Giants got screwed.
Giants got screwed out of any team.
Any 7 out of their first 10 games.
First 10 are on their own. It's the first time it's happened since what was it?
I saw that tweet too.
Pre-expansion or something it was it was the most ridiculous thing. And
that's crazy.
And it's exactly because Aaron Rodgers. He starts, I think 5 of his first 7 games. I'm flipping around. Flip that at home. He's at home. Yep. He's starting at primetime games at home. He's just getting it's Aaron Rodgers. The NFL gave this guy a layup. I was like, here, just play Detroit. Seattle will win. Detroit will be eliminated, and you guys will beat Detroit. They won't care, and you'll go to the playoffs. And Detroit was like, no.
2 under bets I placed real early. One was the Carolina Panthers because of the rookie quarterback situation. And they had the Panthers at 7 meeting back then when we did.
Yeah,
the other was the Giants. I hit the under. As soon as you said 7 of the first 10 on the road, and then hit that week 13 bye, and that schedule. Granted, again, the Rams might stink again, and their defense is not what it used to be. But still, if you get Green Bay, New Orleans, Philly, those 2 are on the road, and the Rams for 4 of the last 5 games after the bye with 2 Monday games where you're going to be dragging this team through the Monday night ringer on top. This team is set up for disappointment in fantasy. Yes.
Now, when are their Monday, Sunday, Monday, Sunday? Is that within the first 10 games?
No, that's their 4. So week 14 is Monday. So they come out of the bye. They get an extra.
Oh my
day
God!
out
So
of
they
the
do
bye.
7 road game. Oh my word!
Yeah, the
that
schedule
is-
they didn't do them any favors at all.
Oh
Any favors at all.
wow! Ouch!
It's probably
Like
the worst schedule in the league.
am ambivalent when it comes to the Giants, but like now I have some sentimental value in here for these poor gentlemen.
As the
Dang.
Giants fan, did you tell us which Giant wide receiver we should draft? Or no?
Oh,
Can you tell us that? Is it
avoided
Hodgins? Like, tell us it's
Hodgins,
Hodgins.
yeah.
And that guy's good.
Hodgins and Campbell are the two that I'm taking flyers on right now. I actually do like Hodgins for that connect. Like, hey, if he's just starting too, and I think Campbell, this is the healthy effect. If he stays healthy, actually fits with Daniel Jones' style, in my opinion.
He's a scored
Sterling
touchdown.
Shepard's the real answer. If you could ever stay healthy for 16
Well,
games.
first 4
I
weeks,
know.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Always. When he's on the field, he's awesome.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, Campbell doesn't score touchdowns though.
You're a
Hodgins,
monster.
he scores touchdowns.
Yeah,
Nobody scores touchdowns with Daniel Jones. That's the problem.
I'll second you on the Hodges. I'm gonna throw in Wan'Dale Robinson over Paris Campbell for me.
It wouldn't shock me because of Campbell's injury history, but I think if both are healthy, Campbell just brings more. I've been a Campbell guy back to the Dwayne Haskins years in college, back with Campbell and Terry McLaurin and all that type of stuff. So I hope with Paris Campbell, but this is also like the hope with Kadarius Toney. Hell, it's the hope of Sterling Shepard at this point. Is real quick, we're not doing tight ends till next show. We have a few more wide receivers to talk about, but we're almost done for today. Darren Waller, just in general, are you in or out on Darren Waller? Actually, here, I'll just even tell you what he is at ADP on Underdog. You're out. Oh, okay. You know, me like
I'm out because I just don't like that
He's
range.
tight end 7 in the.
I'll take him.
I mean, that's not bad.
If I miss out,
I've seen him go as high as. I mean, best ball is weird. Sorry, Lauren, jump in there. I've seen him go as high as tight end 3. The 7 is okay, but I think it's more just like at that point of the draft. Like I just don't want to be selecting a tight end then.
That's fair. So in the 7th round, you're not thinking tight end because either. Let me put myself. I'm going to play Meaney for here a second. I'm going to tell me if I'm right. Tell me if I'm right. I just want to see how well I know Meaney at this point. This is how well Jake Ciely knows Chris Meaney. Chris Meaney says I'm out at this point because I've either already drafted my top 5 tight end earlier, or I'm going to just wait for rounds later. I'm not drafting mine at this position.
Survey says
it's the latter. I want to live.
No. That's your statement. Like if you hadn't already. Okay.
Correct.
So Jake Ciely knows Chris Meaney.
Yeah,
But
I
I
have
wanna
no
live in
problem. I have no problem drafting Darren Waller. If I miss out on someone like Travis Kelce, I don't have a problem drafting Darren Waller, especially with all of this issue that we're having. Talking about these wide receivers, I'm going to be like sipping my drink in my cabana, and I'm going to be like, draft Darren Waller, and I'm not going to care. And I'm going to be like, what? And then I'll be sad if he misses the last half of
This
season.
is the range I'm living in after 100 picks. Njoku, Schultz, Nkonko, Komet, Dulcich, Higbee. Higbee, I can get pick 150. He had like 70 catches last year. I'm not going to pick somebody around pick 80 when I can get Treylon Burks at pick 80. I know that guy is a clear-cut number 1 on a team that needs to throw the football. That's just my thinking.
We are going to talk tight ends, and we are specifically going to talk Higbee. I was going to mention that because our good friend and boss Kevin Adams was in the conversation with Mike Randall on Twitter about the Kyle Pitts argument, which stemmed into why take Pitts there when you can take blank later. And I said, why take blank later when you can just take Tyler Higbee coming off 100 targets with nobody at number 2 who's guaranteed to have 100 targets, who's guaranteed if Stafford plays the full season to have much better kind of targets.
For sure.
And you just brought it up, but we are going to talk more about tight ends, including some wide receivers. We didn't get to the Ravens, Patriots, Panthers, Rams, and Saints. So all those are on the docket for next week. And reminder, the show is July 8th on Sirius XM. You can check it out there. And then you said, before we get out of here, you said the cabana. So I got to go.
I'll give one more shout out. Yeah. CircleLasVegas.com for more details. But the ultimate fantasy football giveaway for you and your 12 league mates in Las Vegas, $5,000 food and beverage cart at Stadium Swim from a cabana, which Lauren loves as well. I mean, I don't blame her. Limo transportation from the airport to the hotel, 2-hour open bar. You got the Legacy Club there. $8,000 prize package here. Booth at Circus Sportsbook with $500 for beverage for just you. You know what? And the rest of your league is going to get taken care of as well. So check it out, circlelasvegas.com, and do it soon. Sign up here immediately, and because they're going to have that draft close to Labor Day weekend, I do believe.
Yeah, and sign up over FTN, code OLN, 20% off over the Athletic go click on the projections link or anything, and it's $1 a month for 12 months. It's the year's due. They do this once a year. I know that's and it's
promos.
It's essentially
stuff.
free,
Man, come on.
$1 a month. So,
Cool.
and we'll be back next week, Monday airing because of the holidays. Shout out to Canada on Monday and July 4th on Tuesday. So look for us next week, and of course, a reminder that July 8th on Sirius XM. More of us, 2 hours, craziness. Cut us out of here, Fox. Goodbye.